What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Good to see you all again. Let's talk about some TRKA. This is your bourbon and scotch review channel. Today we're just doing an old-fashioned with some Maker's 47. We're mixing it so it doesn't really matter how great the bourbon is. So side note, this is not financial advice. I'm just here for your entertainment purposes. I told you I would look into this over the weekend. I cannot find enough time to barely breathe in my life right now, let alone come out here with YouTube videos at the moment and do research. So I'm done trading for the day. Nice day, 12:11 market time right now. Let's talk about the filings. I'm not telling you this is like the end-all be-all. I'm just telling you what I'm narrowing it down to slowly but surely. And you know, we're just retail. We got to do what we can with what we have to work with. There's a lot of theories. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying any of that. Just this is a logical standpoint, I think, as of right now, is what I'm trying to dig my way through. So we have this filing here, right? This one was filed, it looks like maybe February 17th. It says basically, pursuant to the Rule 477 under the Securities Act of 1933 as amended, TRKA Corporation formed under the laws of Nevada hereby respectfully requests that the Securities and Exchange Commission consent to the withdrawal effective as of the date hereof or at the earliest practicable date hereafter. So it says of the Form S1 together with all exhibits and amendments thereto, the registration statement that was originally filed with the Commission on April 4th, 2022. The registration statement has not been declared effective by the Commission, and no securities were sold or will be sold under the registration statement. So that's kind of interesting, right? We were wondering, were these securities coming into the market? Should they be? Should the float have been adjusted? I don't know. As far as we can tell, in all of our probably whatever brokerage you use, you're probably seeing an adjusted float. Even when we look at Ortex, we're seeing an adjusted float. But are they saying possibly this should have never been affected and that could potentially be the case? I can't guarantee you that. This is just me going through it. We're going to go through a few more filings just because we need to look back and see what exactly they're talking about. The company is seeking withdrawal of the registration statement because it is not currently pursuing a public offering of securities. Therefore, withdrawal of the registration statement is consistent with the public interest and the protection of investors. That's nice to hear. The company that requests that in accordance with Rule 457 under the Securities Act, all fees be paid to the Commission in connection with the filing of the registration statement be credited for future use. The company acknowledges that no refund will be made for fees or fees paid to the Commission in connection with the filing. We would be grateful if you could send us copies of the written order granting withdrawal of our registration. So we have that in place. So now we have to go back to the S1, kind of see what was going on with the S1 form. As we look through the S1, just a quick look of the overview. This prospectus relates to the sale by selling stockholders of up to 200 million shares of common stock upon convergence of an aggregate of 500,000 shares of Series E preferred stock under the securities purchase agreement dated March 16, 2022, between the company and the purchasers, which we refer to herein as the purchase agreement. See selling stockholder. The selling stockholder may sell the common stock from time to time in the open markets, basically on NASDAQ, and private negotiated transactions, so that could be dark pool usage, however they want to see fit. Shorts can cover in a dark pool. If these shares were out there, they could sell those to potentially a short, which would not affect the market price. We like to think shorts have to buy on the market, but a lot of times whenever you have dilution or you have an offering of some sort, those can go dark pool to the shorts. So that was one of the concerns that I had is, can they get out just by covering here? Well, it looks like they're trying to eradicate this whole, I guess, S1 filing, which would be great news. At market prices prevailing at the time of sale, at prices related to the prevailing market prices at negotiated prices or combined of those methods. So we are not selling any securities under this prospectus and will not receive any of the proceeds from the sale of common stock by our selling stockholders. Our shares of common stock are traded on NASDAQ, TRKA, on April 1st, 2022. We will pay the expenses incurred in registration, so they are still going to do that. They said in their modification that we see that was filed, they're not asking for any kind of reimbursement there. But then we look over here and it says, basically, the company's failure to register the resale of shares of common stock underlying the Series E preferred stock has subjected the company to liquidated damages and could subject it to additional liability. The shares of Series E preferred stock and warrants and the shares of common stock issuable upon conversion of the Series E preferred stock and the exercise of warrants issued on March 2022 were not initially registered under the Securities Act of 1933. Pursuant to a registration rights agreement with the purchasers dated March 16, 2022, the company committed to file with the SEC an initial registration statement within 10 days of March 21st, 2022, which initial registration statement was required to be declared effective. Now, we don't know if that ever actually went down. While the company filed a registration statement on the Form S1 concerning the securities to satisfy the requirements of the registration right agreement, the Form S1 was not declared effective and was ultimately withdrawn. Interesting. So again, we're going back to, should these shares have truly affected the float? Could they have been offered into the market? I'm not saying that they couldn't have been offered into the market. There's plenty of things that go indifferent to what our thinking should be. So could they be in the market? Yes, they could. But are we seeing filings that say maybe they should not be out there? As a result, the company is required under the terms of the Registration Act agreement to pay to the purchasers a partial liquidated damages penalty for failure to meet the effectiveness date required, which is equal to 14% of the subscription amount, of which $3.6 million remains unpaid. The holders of securities could seek to pursue payment of the unpaid liquidated damages and or other remedies which could have material adverse effects on the company and financial decisions. So that is another, aspect that could be at play is TRKA maybe for some sort of filing mishandling might be at hand for some sort of liable damages, I guess, in a sense, as far as all of that goes down. So right now, I'm still not going to tell you whether I think the shares are out there or not out there. I'm not going to tell you whether I think they should be out there or shouldn't be out there. We just have to kind of read through the filings and see what makes sense. As far as the filings go, I guess I'm seeing kind of wording that's alluding to maybe they shouldn't be out there and they're trying to make it whole with those participants that probably got in off of the original filing, and then we had some paperwork mishaps. So I do think it's going to come at a cost to TRKA to make it all correct in the end. Now, will it be better to be correct in the end for shareholders? It seems like they think that that would be more advantageous to their shareholders, giving the stock value, although it is probably going to ding them a little. So I also don't know if we're going to get earnings like people are thinking. Maybe it comes out today. Maybe it comes out in after hours. Or maybe there's also a filing that's saying that they've changed their dates to like June. So their calendar quarters or half a years whenever they prefer to make those reports. It may not be reported today. We had 2 quarters, I think, reported in the last earnings. So to expect a single quarter or earnings this time. I don't know if we're going to get that. And I don't know if we want that, right? The last one was very good, and that's kind of what we're working off of right now. If we were to get one today and it not be as good, it's going to have an impact. I'm not saying it's not going to come out. It could come out. It very well could. And it could be great, which would be a good impact as well. Right now, I think we're sitting a little bit stagnant, but we're holding up pretty well. It could go a million different ways, but as retail, we have questions, and I'm sure, the bigger money that actually makes the moves in the stocks are like trying to figure out, what their position is and how this is going to affect them. So we're just letting the time ride right now. Big money will know before we do. So, that's why I always say protect your downside, because if it gets ugly, it could get ugly fast. If it gets good, it could get good fast. But we're just taking that risk. We're riding that train right now. We're looking at some important key levels. TRKA loves to just ride its trend lines. Good thing, probably bull flag, hopefully break to the upside, trying to slowly consolidate its way out right now. Doesn't mean we're going to get that breakout. It doesn't necessarily mean we are, but so far, slight consolidation, not totally in bull control. So I'm not hyping myself up too much just yet for the day, but let's see if we get a retest and a push and start climbing through some of these levels. Somebody said, yeah, I called out every level. I do. I'm a channel. I'm a level trader. I want to see how my stock is moving between my channels, and that's why I call out the levels. It's very easy to trade channels. It's very it's logical, and you see how it's moving between those levels. Right now, we are pinned below that 2044 level. We're at 2035 as it currently sits. So this is why we trade channels, we trade levels. If it gets above 2044, we see a base with some strength. And what are we looking for? We're looking for that next channel to the upside, or we're looking for the rejection to the upside. That's why we take it one step at a time. It's small whenever we're trading penny stocks. It's almost stupid small, right? Half a penny at a time. It's not the greatest, but at least it gives us confidence as to how we are climbing or how we are kind of settling down and taking our beating at the moment. I do have a safety net trend line that's coming down here. You guys can see it. If you want to draw it off of your lows, you got plenty of touches there. Bring it on over. Let's see if they want to ride us back down for another test. But as far as our grind lines on the RSIs go and our longer time frames, we're sitting okay. 30-minute is currently curling back up in bullish territory, so we're sitting at 51.02 right there on the 30-minute. We're at 51.5 on the 1 hour, sitting at our grind line, kind of ever so slightly curling back to the upside. Will it bounce? I don't know. We need it to. Why? Because the 4 hour set a nice higher high, but wants to, right now you can see it's curling back to the downside like it wants to come back down and test this grind line. It could. We'll see. On the 4 hour, we could be looking at a little inverse head and shoulders possibly forming, as long as we don't break that neckline. I don't know if that's going to play out or not. And again, it's just a pattern. Patterns give us statistics. They don't always have to play out. You can play them kind of like, a percentage. Say, hey, 70, 90% of the time this plays out. But hey, 10% of the time it doesn't play out. So you just look for little indications that tell you, hey, maybe this is going to be one that would move us possibly to the upside. We're just watching for the statistical play as far as what goes on, and does it want to play out or does it want to give out? If they give out, then you know what that means. If they play out, awesome. You know what that means. So we take it one step at a time, one channel at a time. We look for patterns. We look for what it's currently doing and just seeing if and when and where it wants to make that move. We don't have a whole lot going for us other than the very short time frames. And like I said, will this hold? I hope it does. Can it get back over our level of 2044? We're at 2043 right now. This is why we watch the levels. Get that little push above, create a base, then we got possibly a breakout, as long as the trend wants to continue to be our friend. If it doesn't get that breakout, I would be saying we're probably getting sucked right back down into our trend line for now, and we just see how this all goes. So if we get earnings tonight, that's awesome. We'll come back, we'll talk about it, good or bad. And if we don't, I don't know if I'd be crossing my fingers and holding my breath waiting for that, because it could be extended to a much later date, which I guess we really don't have a much later date. But hey, how many stocks have applied for just a little extension? If they don't meet compliance? Plenty. Probably a lot more than you'd like to admit that you were involved in trying to get that extension. So like I said, one step at a time. Watch your levels today. Let's see how we move. I don't want to lose this 1950. If we do lose the 1950, be watching for 1850, somewhere in there, depending on if and when it breaks down and touches our safety net trend line down here. If it gets this breakout, what are you watching for? 2103, 2150, 2197, 2264, 2349. And ultimately, you guys know where I want to be. I want to be back up at least the 1618 area and see what we can do from there. That gets us back into our box. So let's see how, if and when that 1618 around 25.5 cents wants to come back into play, and if we can get any support there. But I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you were safe. I hope you had fun, and I hope you're making some money today. Otherwise, let's see what happens in TRKA, and we'll go from there. As always, stay golden, people, and may your accounts stay green.